Last week in your Skip Barber iRacing Championship, we saw these little Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars go to one of the most important Grand Prix circuits in the world. This week, we go to one of the tightest, most important club circuits in the United States. This is week number 5 of your iRacing and Skip Barber Racing School Championship, live from Summit Point Raceway. Join us in a few moments' time.
Recording.
You know, racing the truck at Eldora versus, say, racing a sprint car at Eldora, it's not even comparable. It's just really slow motion. The car kind of floats around more. Challenging because they are so heavy, and it's just way different.
Welcome back to Race by TV and iRacing Live as coverage begins of the Skip Barber Racing School round number 5 race here from Summit Point. Randy Chinnet, Alvin Yevas, and Hugo Louis, and we hope you enjoyed that little sneak peek that was released earlier today from iRacing of the Rallycross that they currently have in development. One of the features a lot of people are really looking forward to. But Alvin, really all eyes on this here for today. Skip Barber cars at this racetrack. Even for these guys, this is a tight lap around this place. Only a minute and 20-second lap time, even in these little cars.
And not only is it a tight racetrack here, but also, like you just mentioned, very short, 1 minute 20. However, I expect this is the type of track that really suits these cars. Small, underpowered, but that doesn't mean that they are short of action. These cars, I think today we will see lots of fantastic racing here. And even another portion that I think of this track, if we think about the tracks that we have been going through, that front straight, it's pretty big considering the length of this track, and I'm pretty sure that most of the cars here, most of the drivers here, will be using that front straight to their advantage as much as possible.
It is actually, considering how short the lap is here, a disproportionate front straightaway in terms of length. It's a pretty long run down into corner number 1. Get a good chunk of slipstream in these little cars going down into that first corner. But other thing that I really think about at this racetrack, Alvin, because it's so short, the lap time should just naturally be very tight. I mean, you look at the gap between the top 2 right now, Johnny Gundy and Felipe Bear, and as I say that, Tuan Tron, he goes fastest in that number 4 car, puts himself up onto the fastest timing sheet, though we still have one other driver in that top 3. He's getting ready to finish a lap. It's Felipe Bear, who's actually coming through the final corner right now. Let's see if he can improve by 0.06 of a second and snag pole away from the 4 of Tuan Tron as he comes down the front straightaway and getting ready to drive across the starting grid. That lap doesn't count, so he will not improve, as actually qualifying has just ended. And with that, we will go to your starting grid for this 18-lap event from the Summit Point Raceway. As I was about to say, the times at Summit Point, we can expect them to be very close. Tuan Tron takes the pole with a 1 minute 19.938. Second place, only 400ths off of him at a 9.75. Third place, a Felipe Bear sits at a 9.92. Then everyone else from 4th on back sits in the 1 minute and 20-second and slower bracket. Greg Seitz in 4th with an 0.57. Carlos Rodriguez Martin with a 120.070. Then 6th and 7th, you have Andrew Picario, Kane Halliburton, Carlos Rivera Sainz rounds out 8th. Jeremiah Morton, and Justin Smith. They're going to round out your top 10. That's the first 5 rows covered. Christian Capenga and Mike McCormick in 11th and 12th, followed by Ignacio Sanchez and Brandon Azeredo, Brian Kelly and Daniel Fogarini in 15th and 16th, with Carl Dronke bringing up the end of the field with a very uncharacteristically slow time of a 122.8, the slowest by a large margin here. But Alvin, times are very close. Top 16 out of 17 cars separated by about 8/10.
And this shows you the quality of the field that we got in here today. You know, most of the drivers here, we know them, but also this is one of the good things that we get when we get the free content from iRacing. We also get to see some drivers that perhaps we don't get to see at our races. So this definitely shows you the quality of the field that we have in here today. And Randy, I don't expect anything short of fantastic racing in here today.
I don't expect anything less either. As I say that, the revs begin to build and the cars get away here at Summit Point. It's a good start among your top 3 as they quickly get themselves single file. Johnny Gundy pulling over to driver's right to protect that inside on this long run down into the first corner, and into turn number 1 they come. Felipe Bear looks to the outside of that 2 machine of Johnny Gundy, and he actually pulled up alongside the 4 of Tuan Tron Contact, and the 1 of Felipe Bear gets pushed off wide to the left-hand side, keeps it on the racetrack, but he's going to be fighting for 4th now with the 3 at Greg Seitz. He's going to have to shuffle in. Also contact behind between the 11 and the 7. They're almost going to be 3 wide as they go into this first left-hander of the lap, and everyone trying to get themselves single file here, Alvin, as they begin the run into corner number 4, this right-hand kink, which is oh so difficult.
Very difficult, but still here racing going side by side here, coming into turn number 5 now here under heavy braking there. Everybody there on the front, really not going single file, but right there in the middle of the field, still cars going side by side.
Leaders trying to get themselves single file as best they can, still side by side racing between Christian Capenga and Jeremiah Morton. They're going to get themselves started. They've got a spin in the back. I don't know who that is spinning off. That is the 9 of Brendan Azeredo. Heavy damage to that car, and he's off in the grass. A couple other cars damaged as well. Carl Dronke in the 10. I think those are the only 2 cars that were involved in there, but big incident. We're getting a replay of that for you now.
Yeah, and that's absolutely, like I was saying, they were pretty much, they were racing really hard right there through the middle all the way to the back of the field. And, well, this kind of shows you that as a consequence of that hard racing, well, you know, sometimes you got to leave a little bit more space than what you intend, and sometimes, well, things happen.
All while that's happening, the fight for the race lead is heated up. Johnny Gundy attempted a move on the outside of the 4 machine of Tuan Tron down into corner number 1. He's almost got the job done. He's made it stick, and he's pulled more than alongside as they begin to run into corner number 3. The 2 machine of Gundy takes over the lead, but he's going to push wide into the dirt. So the 4, Tuan Tron, going to be able to fight back on the outside. This is the left-hand side, outside line for corner number 4. This fast right-hand kink. Johnny Gundy, even with that little mistake, going to be able to hang on to it now into corner number 5. He has the position clear. They're fighting about deeper in the field as well. Andrew Picario and Felipe Bear, they're arguing over the 4th spot as they come into the tight section of this racetrack once again.
And Felipe Bear really has to be really careful because Andrew Picario has been really closing just a little bit, but also as well Carlos Rodriguez Martin, he's also trying to join in that party for P number 4, but as I said that it kind of seems like the top 3, Johnny Gundy, Tuan Tron, and Greg Seitz, are able to get just a little bit of separation from the rest of the field.
Just a little bit between your top 2 and the 3rd place runner, and then a little bit more between the 3rd place runner of Greg Seitz and Felipe Bear as we begin the run into corner number 1 again. Tuan Tron is going to take the fight right back to Johnny Gundy into corner number 1, looking to the outside, hard on the brakes. Will he make this outside line stick as well as the 2 of Gundy did? No, he will not. Gundy's going to defend the race lead for now, and Tron is going to have to fight with Greg Seitz for second. He forces Seitz off to the right-hand side. Couple wheels off in the grass for Seitz as the 4 of Tron now through corner number 3 has the inside line. He should be able to make this stick, push it a little bit wide, but we know that's okay because Alvin, going through corner number 3, even if you push wide a little bit on exit, as long as you don't get 4 wheels off in the dirt and don't go too far out, you should be able to have enough momentum to maintain the inside line going into corner number 4.
It is really surprising how the exit of turn 3 is really friendly when it comes to off track, because you know on some other tracks you go off track and that pretty much means kind of race over because you are going to lose control. But up in here, if you go off track, you can still have the car under control, like you just mentioned, Randy. As long as you don't get too much off track, you should be able to keep the momentum going. And on these cars, it's all about momentum.
That really is one of the big things of these cars. That's why they're used to teach good driving here. Why they're such good racing school cars. They teach momentum, they teach flow. As right now they're fighting for third place behind Tuan Tron, who has a gap to Johnny Gundy. So the number 1 and the number 3 fighting for third. Felipe Bear on the outside pulls a little bit of nose and a half ahead of the 3 of Greg Seitz. Around the outside, Felipe Bear goes. Will he be able to make it stick? He's still somewhat alongside, but the 3 has the momentum down on the bottom. Now the 1 machine starts to get a little bit of a run. Can he make the move in corner number 3? No, he's actually going to back out of it here, get back single file and get in line. So the 1 of Felipe Bear, I think realizing here, Alvin, that the 3 would be able to defend in the long run. Even if he made the move into 3, he'd be able to defend going into 4. So for that reason, Felipe Bear just preemptively got himself back single file and pulled out of that move.
And not only that, and when you consider, when you go into turn 3, you go really fast, so it wasn't really guaranteed that Greg Seitz was going to leave the room as they were exiting the turn. So for Felipe Bear, it was more of a smart move. Let's not fight it now. Let's give it a couple more laps and see what happens. But looking more in front, Johnny Gundy, it seems like he's able to open just a little bit of a gap to Greg Seitz right now. So Johnny Gundy and Tuan Tron, even though Tuan Tron has been trying to fight for the lead of the race, and I think he's I think I can see him trying to be a little bit more patient right now, considering that this is an 18-lap race.
Yeah, it is an 18-lap race, very high in the lap count. The number 4, Tuan Tron, very close to the back end of Johnny Gundy as they go into corner number 1. Your top 6, top 7, basically everyone stays single file. First side-by-side mode between Jeremiah Martin and Carlos Rodriguez. Martin, they're fighting aggressively for the 8th position. Also fighting just behind them is Justin Smith and Christian Campanga. So 2 by 2, they run down into corner number 3. Your lead pack gets themselves back single file. And then behind, Justin Smith picks up the position from Christian Campanga. Actually, take that back. Defends the position from Christian Campanga, but Campanga looking to the inside into corner number 4, the 12 machine, Alvin, somewhat scarily leaving that door open, and that can be a sketchy place to have a car alongside of you going into that quick right-hand kink at corner number 4.
And I think that is the last place that you want to try to get somebody try to overtake you, because like you just mentioned, it is really fast, but you also have to be on your toes because you pretty much got to use all the racetrack. And then when you consider what comes next, turn 5, and that is one of the heaviest braking zones up here in Summit Point, apart going into turn number 1. So you really have to be careful if you leave that door open, because then the last thing you want to do is go into that technical section 6, 7, 8, 9 going side by side, because definitely you will lose a lot of time.
Yeah, turn 5 to turn 9 has to be single file. The fight for the race lead heating back up. The 4 Tuan Tron pulls the driver's left on the run into corner number 1. He's trying to pinch Johnny Gundy on entry into 1, and he managed to do it successfully, but he got shuffled back in behind. But I think he compromised the exit for the 2 machine of Gundy. He might be able to make a move going into corner number 3, but no, he's going to just sit back and wait for a better opportunity to present itself through this corner number 3. Gundy again goes just a little bit wide, but we know that because this straightaway, it isn't quite long enough for the ramifications of that to really take effect. So Gundy's going to be able to defend here. They all now cycle themselves down into corner number 5, and this is the tightest section on the racetrack. Tight right-hander at corner number 6, then a quick little burst of the throttle into corner number 7, 8, and 9. And this is all about just threading the needle here, Alvin, through this tight section, that right, left, and then back into this right before you come onto this second back straightaway on the run to that fast final right-hand corner.
And you know, Randy, I was expecting a little bit more of a breakaway when it came to the front of the field, because we saw that start of the race. It was really good regardless of when it came to the front, but I was expecting more of a 3-car breakaway. But I'm really surprised that we had right now a 6-car breakaway, and this is pretty much the whole dynamic that we have seen throughout the whole season. And as I said, that Tuan Tron and Johnny Gundy going side by side into turn number 1, it looks like Tuan Tron may have the lead just a little bit, and coming out of turn number 1 into turn number 2, let's see Tuan Tron still side by side with Johnny Gundy, and Johnny Gundy a little bit into the grass. Let's see, Johnny Gundy, Tuan Tron, turn number 3, who's got it? And it seems like it's Tuan. No, they still going side by side, but now Greg Seitz joining the party.
Greg Seitz going to toss his hat in the ring. He gets up to the inside of the 4 of Tuan Tron. Can't make it stick through corner number 4. He's going to cycle back and has to now fight off Felipe Bear. And you talked about it, Alvin. This section of the racetrack, you almost have to be single file, but now they're forced to be 2x2 at the tail end of your top 5. Greg Seitz is eventually going to pick up the spot. Felipe Bear has to give way, but that was an aggressive move from the 4 of Tuan Tron on Johnny Gundy. That was arguably the best opportunity he's had all race long, and he was unable to make it stick. And now the 2 machine has a bit of a breakaway as they run down to your final corner. This fast right-hander. Through this fast right-hander, the 2 machine of Gundy gets a little bit loose, has to get the car back underneath them, and he begins now driving down this front straightaway. The 4 of Tuan Tron trying to work the slipstream at the back of the field. See the 14 and the 7 of Precario and Sainz. They're going to be duking out, as well as Seitz and Felipe Bear, your leaders. They're going to be single file on the braking zone into corner number 1, but the fight is on for 3rd as Greg Seitz tries to defend on the low line. The 1 of Felipe Bear, though, tries to work the momentum on the top now, down this second short straightaway on the run into corner number 3. Turn 2 is that tight little, well, that not so tight little right-hand kink. And then 1, Felipe Bear, fantastic maneuver on the outside of 1, gets the momentum on the run into 3, but pushes way wide on the exit. Might just get himself a slowdown for that, but the 1 machine of Felipe Bear manages to take home that 3rd spot.
And I gotta say that he is really lucky that that part of the track, if you go off track, it is really friendly. Now, I want to point something out that is really that it's really starting to kind of form here. Usually we see 3, maybe 4 groups when it comes to fighting for positions. Right now we only have 2 groups, P1 to P6 and then P8 to P13. Now you may ask, where is P7? Kane Halliburton. He is trying to catch little by little this leading pack, and I think if they keep fighting, this 6-car breakaway is gonna become a 7-car breakaway.
Oh, your leader of Johnny Gundy makes a mistake off the final corner. This might bring Johnny Gundy into the fold as they run down through your front straightaway, and the 2 of Johnny Gundy. Will Tuan Tron get close enough to make a move? Johnny Gundy bravely goes to driver's left. I think Tuan Tron could have pushed the brakes here into corner number 1. Johnny Gundy very, very fortunate. I think that was unwise there, Alvin, because the 2 machine left that door on the inside wide open, and I think that that was Tuan Tron's potential opportunity to get super aggressive, just break that little bit later and shut that door on the 2 machine of Johnny Gundy. Very, very tight moment there for Johnny.
You know, you can see it a kind of like a not smart move, but something we have to consider, the entry into turn 1, it's really tight, and then it starts really to open. So I think Johnny Gundy, to me, it was more like a smart move. If they were going to fight for it, it was more like a smart move, because if you exit out of it, he would have had a bigger radius, so he would have been able to carry a lot more speed if Tuan Tron was going to go for that move.
Thing is, though, would he have his turn in compromise, and would he be expecting that 4 machine of Tron to stick his nose in? Regardless, for Johnny Gundy, he finally gets a bit of a breakaway, and if you're the 4 of Tuan Tron, you might just have the 1 of Felipe Bear to deal with as they come out of the final corner and down the front straightaway. The 4 pushes a little bit wide, but not too much so, as Felipe Bear going to be working the slipstream down into corner number 1. What does Tuan Tron do? What does Felipe Bear do? Felipe Bear is going to look to driver's right on the inside into corner number 1 now, into the braking zone. They come down a couple of gears, and where do you want to be, on the outside or the inside? Felipe Bear gets the job done on the inside line, and now Tuan Tron has to deal with Greg Seitz side by side down this second short chute and into corner number 3. And the 4 machine, he's going to have the preferred line on the inside, should be able to push wide. He picks up the spot. Yes, he does. Gets a couple wheels off on the dirt. 3 machine of Greg Seitz going to have a bit of a run, but he should be able to quell that just with the geometry of the racetrack. Great move by the one of Felipe Bear, Alvin, to pick up P number 2.
And not only that, I think from what we were talking earlier, Randy, that move that Tuan Tron tried to make, I think that you were right. I think that was the best opportunity he had, and that, well, as a consequence, he didn't go for that move, and then now Felipe Bear going into P2. But let's not forget, Felipe Bear, Johnny Gundy, teammates. However, they are not afraid to tangle.
They're not afraid to tango, but it's also important to remember Felipe Bear won last series for this last season in this championship. Johnny Gundy did not. So because of that, the top 2 may somewhat work together to try to get Johnny Gundy that overall win in the points this season as they work themselves down into corner number 1 for the 11th time. Going to be 8 laps to go here. As Felipe Bear, will he be clear for the second spot? Yes, he will, but they're going to be side by side for 5th, as Carlos Urias-Sainz is going to lose P number 5 to Andrew Picario, but the 14 gets a great run of momentum on the exit of corner number 1 through corner number 2, and that 14 machine starts to nose side by side with the 7 of Picario down this second short shoot straightaway into corner number 3. The 14 of Sainz is at the apex, but we know driver's right's where you want to be. The 7 gets forced wide, and they're going to stay side by side now down this run into turn number 4. Side by side again in the 14 Sainz. Fantastic maneuver on the outside of 4. We'll have the inside line into 5 and then move the 14 of Carlos Urias-Sainz back into the 5th spot.
That is a fantastic move there by Carlos Urias-Sainz. However, I have to say, all that fighting, that may have allowed just enough for this 6-car pack now to become a 4-car pack. And Randy, something that we see now, we are past halfway this race, and this is the part that we start seeing all these moves here in the front for trying to go for the lead. And from what we have seen, Randy, we have seen some fantastic moves in here today, but I also have to say, these drivers in here, they really want to go for that win, and they will go at no expenses, even if that means if they have to go for that move. It may seem silly, it may be the end of the race, but if it means going for the win, they will have to do it.
Yeah, I think these guys are really going to push the boundaries as hard as they can, as the 1 of Felipe Bear has reeled in the 2 of Johnny Gundy. And unfortunately, if you're Johnny Gundy, he's also brought Tuan Tron and Greg Seitz with him as they're going to run down into corner number 4. They're all going to be single file here, but I don't think the same story is going to be said this next time into corner number 1 as we're approaching 5 laps to go in this motor race. Now, through corner number 5 into 6, 7, 8, and 9, this tight, you know, as we described it earlier, it's like threading a needle through this entire section. Basically, there's really only half a line through this complex. It's a very, very awkward section of this racetrack. And now down through corner number 9 and into the final corner at 10. You see Felipe Bear going a little bit defensive going down the run into the final corner for seemingly no reason, and now through the final corner they come onto the front straightaway. The 2 of Johnny Gundy is going to push a little bit wide, 2 tires off on the dirt on driver's left. And what will Felipe Bear do? Johnny Gundy's going to defend on the outside. Then the 1 Machine LeBear, he's going to go to driver's left, not working the slipstream. And Alvin, for them, that's exactly what these 2 teammates want to do. They both cross over themselves going into corner number 1. You see Gundy go from driver's right to driver's left. LeBear does the exact opposite. Both of them making their cars wide, defending those top 2 positions.
I think this has to do more with teamwork rather than trying to race for that position, because they know that both of them, Felipe Bear, Johnny Gundy, they are capable of winning any race that they want. But they know that right now, if they want to win this race, the best thing they can do right now is try to do a breakaway if they can. But saying that is one thing, because the Tuan Tron and Greg Seitz, they are also 2 fantastic drivers. And let's not forget, Greg Seitz, he's also teammates to Felipe Bear and Johnny Gundy. So perhaps it could be like a tactic to get Tuan Tron as close as possible to Greg Seitz and make it a 1-2-3.
So much like Forrest Gump used to say, 3 of your top 4 are like peas and carrots. All teammates, all likely working together to a certain extent. Now down through the final corner once again, going to be 5 laps to go across the stripe. You see the top 2 again. Johnny Gundy goes to the left-hand side of the racetrack. 1 goes to the right-hand side of the racetrack. And actually, the 1 of Felipe Bear, big head of momentum here for your race lead. He's going to pull up alongside the 2 Machine of Johnny Gundy. They're going to go breaking into corner number 1, and Felipe Bear making a move on Gundy, but no. Gundy's going to be able to sweep around the outside and get clear of that 1 Machine. The 4 and the 5, the 4 and the 3, Alvin, really nowhere to go.
Absolutely nowhere to go, but that battling, it kind of seems like it kind of hampered Tuan Tron just a little bit, and that also helped Greg Seitz get a little bit of a run there coming into turn number 4, but it seems like he lost just that little bit of momentum trying to go into turn 3, so it kind of seems like we're gonna have to rinse and repeat all over again. Let's see if the leading 2, they can slow down Tuan Tron just a little bit to see if they can give that advantage to Greg Seitz.
They're going to need to be careful, though, because Tron will be aggressive over these final 5 laps to get the job done, because there's only really one good braking point on this race, or passing point on this racetrack, Alvin. It's going into corner number 1. You can make a move through turn 3, and you can, if the dominoes fall right, you can make a move through corner number 4 into 5, but it's very difficult to do. Turn 1 is where you have to try to make the move stick. But so for Tron, if the opportunity presents itself, he's going to have to make a move, and he's going to have to be aggressive with it. I'm not sure that these top 2 are going to be able to slow him down. I think they just need to try to separate a gap. As you see the one of Felipe Bear working the slipstream on Johnny Gundy. He weaves back left, back right. Now going into corner number 1, doesn't make a big move just yet. As you see Greg Seitz now going to try to work the cuck back on the 4 of Tron and get it side by side, and the 3 gets the overlap, pulls up to the right-hand side of the 4 machine of Tron on the run out of corner number 2 into corner number 3. Tron now working the inside, and he's going to get clear of the 3 machine, and he should be able to hold on to this. Yes, he does. 3 of Greg Seitz, no momentum there. Going to defend that 3rd spot for sure is the 4 of Tron.
And I think this is working in a way kind of like a two-way situation. If they are able to slow down Tron just enough, Greg Seitz will be able to overtake Tron and make it a 1-2-3. And if not, it will make it just enough so that Tron and Greg Seitz just keep battling, and that will just open the gap for Johnny Gundy and Felipe Leber just enough so that those 2, they can battle for the win.
There's been other fights happening up and down the field, but we're trying to keep an eye on this lead fight, as it is so interesting. Tron has lost the back end of 2nd place runner Felipe Bear over this last half a lap or so, but that said, Bear did not get a good run off that final corner, and Tron is going to have the slipstream, I think, on him. Will he be close enough, and will he have a run to potentially make a move into corner number 1? I think the answer to that question is no. So going into the 1st corner, the 4 of Tron not close enough to the 1 of Bear, but they need to let those mistakes calm down, Alvin, because if they happen once again, it's going to be 2 to go next time across the stripe, and that's the point where Tron is going to have to make a move stick, because he's going to have 1 lap to get around the 1 of Felipe Bear, and then 1 more lap to potentially get around the 2 of Johnny Gundy.
And that is definitely a tall order here to ask from these drivers. However, I know that these drivers, they do have the skills to go through it. Now, with that said, let's do a quick rundown for your top 10, because this race has been really fast and furious, especially at the front of the field. So P1, we have Johnny Gundy. P2, we got Felipe Leber, Tron and Greg Seitz of 3 and 4, and running out your top 5, Carlos Urea Sainz, and then on P number 6, Andrew Procario, Kane Halliburton, P7, Justice Smith and Chris Kabanga, 8 and 9, and rounding out your top 10, Daniele Forgiarini.
So those are your top 10 as they run with a little over 2 laps to go through the final corner. This lead quartet comes. And let's see, Johnny Gundy gets a good run. Felipe Bear gets a good run as well. And he has the overlap, and he has a gap, rather, excuse me, from 3rd place runner Tron as Felipe Bear cuts back and forth across the front straightaway. But for 3rd, the 3 machine of Greg Seitz pulls alongside Tron on the run down into corner number 1. The 3 machine on the outside, trying to make the outside line work. And the 3 of Greg Seitz doesn't get the run out of the corner that he would have wanted, is not able to maintain the momentum. So for now, the 4 of Tron will defend that position. Felipe Bear, though, still trying to work the backside of Johnny Gundy through corner number 3. And now, Alvin, another lap and a half left to go for this one. It's do or die time, both for Tron and for Greg Seitz.
Do or die indeed, and the laps are really running down on coming here into turn number 5 to Tron, trying to defend from Greg Seitz, and Greg Seitz has been really putting a lot of pressure throughout the last couple of laps, Randy, here. And I think Greg Seitz here, he is not done. He wants to go for that P3. I know that trying to go for the win may be a little bit hard, considering that Felipe Leber and Johnny Gundy, they have been racing really hard, and looks like a little bit of separation here from the leading 2. Now, as we approach here the last turn, we are coming to the white flag. So Felipe Leber, Johnny Gundy, battle for the win. Who's got it?
170 corners down, 10 more to go for the 1 machine of Felipe Bear and Johnny Gundy. He's going to try to work the slipstream on the 2. And no, I don't think the move's going to be there. Greg Seitz, though, he has a bit of a run on the 4 of Tron, not quite close enough to get the overlap. However, Tron was defensive into 1, so the 3 machine might get a big head of steam exiting corner number 2. Here comes the 3 of Greg Seitz. Will he be able to pull alongside the 4 of Tron on the run into corner number 3? Survey's going to say yes, the 3 machine, he just puts his nose in there, but Tron able to just stay ahead. He runs wide.
runs a little bit wide, and Greg Seitz trying to defend there, but it kind of looks like Tuan Tron is gonna be able to get that P3, but Johnny Guindy, Felipe Leber still battling for the lead.
Now through the tight section of this racetrack, 6, 7, 8, and 9, top 4 all underneath the blanket. And actually, Greg Seitz just popped a motor. 3 Machine and Greg Seitz, I think, just missed a shift, and he just popped his motor. Race is done for him. He will come home in 16th with a DNF. Top 3 still duking it out, though. Johnny Guindy fighting with Felipe Bear. Down now through this final straightaway into the final corner. Off this final fast right-hander, there's going to be the 2 Machine. Enough momentum to be able to maintain the gap over Felipe Bear. It's going to be a 1-2 for the teammates with the 4 Tuan Tron bringing home 3rd. So we'll get a bit of a rundown through your field in a few moments time once everyone cycles through and once all these fights get themselves sorted. And it looks like pretty much everyone has cycled through, so let's go down your post-race results from round number 5 live from Summit Point. Bit of a accidentally muted my mic there. So post-race results here today. Johnny Guindy qualifies 2nd and comes away with the win after 18 laps of racing. Felipe Bear 2nd. Tuan Tron, your pole sitter, falls back to 3rd. Carlos Arias Sainz comes home 4th with Andrew Vicario 5th. Kane Halliburton 6th. 7th, we have Justin Smith. Christian Capanga in 8th. 9th is Daniel Fogarini. 10th, Ignacio Sanchez. 11th, Mike McCormick. 12th, Jeremiah Morton. 13th, Carl Dronke. 14th, Carlos Rodriguez Martin. 15th, Brian Kelly. 16th, Greg Seitz. And 17th, Renan Azeredo. Greg Seitz, so unfortunate for him, running in the lead pack all race. One little mistake ends it. Don't go away. Post-race coverage will begin in just a few moments time here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. We're just going to step away, catch our breath, and do any post-race interviews that come our way. See you in a few. Everyone pretty much getting single file early. You see everyone pretty much choosing the bottom side of the racetrack. We have one car up top. That's the 9 of Justin Thomas. So look for him to work the cushion and maybe see that inside line come off.
Graham Bolin, he is going super high side, super low side. It almost looks like he is taking corners 3 and 4 on the high side and 1 and 2 on the inside. No, now he's staying to the outside. I think he's defending from Justin Thomas. Thomas, though, is getting so very close. He's actually had a dab on the brakes as Thomas is going to pull to the inside line. He should get a better exit than Bolin. Is that seems that outside line just not coming into play just yet.
Thomas went from the top side to the bottom side just a few laps ago, and he still hasn't been able to get that job done just yet, Cam. That bottom side looks sticky. That 12 gets great traction off the corner, and that's how he's being able to maintain this. As again, they're still side by side through 3 and 4. The 9 gets clear, but just for a moment. But the momentum swings back to the 12. No, he's able to shut the door, and he immediately goes to the top in front of the 12. Bolin tries to cut it low. Not quite able to get there, though. Welcome back to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as post-race coverage begins here after 18 laps, 18 fantastic laps around the Summit Point Raceway. Alvin, 18 laps, very tight racetrack. Have to say, that race had a bit of everything.
Yeah, it definitely had a little bit of everything. You know, we had a lot of great action, great side-by-side racing throughout the whole field. I was really surprised by the amount of respect that everybody gave to each other throughout this race. Yes, there was a little bit of contact here and there that we saw, but throughout most of the race, we saw that for a track that as tight as Summit Point, we saw the drivers are giving as much room as they can. They really respected each other, so I gotta say really hats off to everybody that raced in here today.
You know, especially a racetrack like this, Alvin. I mean, we always talk about racetracks like Summit Point, Lime Rock Park. They're just so tight, so close. I mean, those top 4, they weren't really separated beyond about a second. That entire 18-lap show can be really difficult. As we're going to do a bit of a last lap analysis here from Greg Seitz. Just getting started with that now. Now let's run down it here, Alvin. Run down into corner number 1. Very, very tight stuff. Not quite close enough on the slipstream to really pull alongside Tuan Tron, though.
Yeah, not really a lot. Now, something that I have to ask myself, if we remember last season, right at Okayama, that we have so many incidents with engines expiring, perhaps this was a little bit of a case of Greg Seitz running in the slipstream for perhaps a little bit too long, and that really didn't help him as we came here through the last lap.
Let's see, do turn forward into 5. Let's listen to the downshifts on this number 4 machine, excuse me, 3 machine of Greg Seitz, and this is the point where it happens. And yeah, I think you might be right, Alvin, because it just sort of let go when he went to get back on the throttle exiting corner number 6 there. It just popped. It doesn't sound like he shifted, doesn't sound like he did anything. It just sounded like it just let go.
Absolutely, and then if you think about it, you know, you are going through turn 4 and you are upshifting rather than downshifting, so it's really hard to miss a shift here. And then when you also consider that these cars, they use a sequential gear, iRacing don't let you use an H pattern shifter for these cars, so to miss a shift like that, it definitely had to be a case of an overheating engine for sure.
Yeah, either overheating or I don't want to, you know, potentially spell bad news for Greg Seitz. Could potentially be a hardware issue as well. So unfortunate for him, but we're now apparently showing the correct lap. Sorry about that. Got a little bit confused here, but as you can see, as he runs down into the first corner, nowhere near close enough. And then it's going to be through that middle tight section of the racetrack where things get so tight for that 3 of Greg Seitz, and where that motor just really seemingly for no reason just let go. And see, if you see it just popped right there. You know, not much, you know, not a point like you said, Alvin, not a point where you're downshifting, always a point where you're upshifting. That, you know, you're pretty much right that the only options there are a temperature issue, or, you know, some people have had hardware issues in the past where there's something in their wheel shorts out and the paddles almost get flip-flopped. Those are really the only 2 options that exist.
Yeah, it is definitely, you know, the kind of like you just mentioned, the only 2 things that we can really think about, because it is really rare that we see something like that happen. But regardless, you know what? This is one of those things that, you know, you have been fighting so hard throughout the whole race, trying to get a good finishing position, and then just as you are about to finish the race, something like that happened, you know, and you don't have any control when that happens. It is really unfortunate.
Unfortunate for Greg Seitz, but fortune for Johnny Gundy, as we're going to wrap it up here tonight, live from Summit Point. Fantastic 18 laps of racing all the way through. These guys very tight amongst your lead group. But from Randy Chineth, Alvin Nieves, and Hugo Louis, from everyone at RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, thank you for tuning in, and join us next week as this series is going to go back down to the Southern Hemisphere for 13 laps around the Interlagos Grand Prix circuit. Last season, Interlagos, a fantastic race. Certainly, we can expect the same this season. See you all then.